Today we're presenting the Ampex ATR 800. I thought it'd be a good idea to talk about that machine because if you're watching this video because you've been looking for it on the web and there's not that much literature, there's not that much videos about it, and it's a fairly relatively unknown machine. So the ATR 800 is the last, or almost the last, maybe there has been one after, the last machine Ampex made. And Ampex marketed it in early 80s, so it was around, I would say, mid 80s till the late 90s. There's quite a few on eBay and all around. They've been used in broadcast studios. I would say FM broadcasting, AM broadcasting, television type of a setup. I'll try to explain the configuration of the machine and you understand what makes it special. So Ampex wanted a modular machine. So this is the console version. It's on a freestanding stand with wheels, and it can be dismantled. It is actually a 19 inches rack. That unit, which is also modular, you see that there's different configurations, is a 19 inches rack. So you can dismantle that, put it above it. It would be better to put it underneath, or even leave space on a vertical rack and have it above. And so the fact that I wanted the machine to fit within a 19 inches rack has consequences on the design. For example, you cannot accommodate larger reels than 10.5. You cannot put 14 inches reels on that. Actually, a few machines can accommodate 14 inches reels because that would mean that the center of the spindles would be further away, so there wouldn't be room for the motors, that kind of thing, on a 19 inches rack. So it's a modular machine. You can buy it as a standalone. You can buy it with the console. You can buy it with the freestanding pedestal with wheels, and that unit above can be a different height depending the configuration. What's special about it, and I find very interesting, is the fact that the head stack here is totally modular. You put an Allen key here, you turn it quarter turn, and you can pull the entire head stack. Everything comes together. There's no soldering. There's a huge centronic type connector, a multi-pin connector that you push it in and you can pull it out. So the fact that you can interchange easily the heads means that you can go from full track mono, quarter inch, you can go half track stereo, two of these modules here, half an inch, and you can go 4 tracks machine on a half-inch tape, and you stack 4 units like that here. This is a lid that can be removed, and you can stack more of these recording units. This is a quarter-inch machine, but it can accommodate tape that are twice the width of this of quarter inch. And that means also that the motors are strong enough to pull the heavy weight. You know, a half-inch 10.5 spool is fairly heavy, and to transport it proper speed and being able to cue it accurately and go back to the same spot is quite a task on a machine. So you need powerful motors and good DC servo controlled or logic board that will be able to monitor the speed and the tension on these reels. So you need a strong machine that is probably, controlled. While the head block is sort of open, let's look at a few things, or talk about a few things. I'll go close up on this head block. There's like a Faraday cage that can be closed on the block. When the tape is recording, or when it's, when you're in play mode, in order to reproduce and to go toward another generation that requires fidelity, accuracy, and especially signal to noise ratio, a very low noise level, so you can close the entire thing, and it's almost perfectly closed because there's a small opening here, and there's almost no interferences that can be picked up by the heads, radio waves, that type of thing. So it's like a small Faraday cage around the heads. But most of the time you use it with that door down, so you can access the heads, you can use a pencil to mark the tapes, you know where to cut, and because from my perspective and the way Ampex marketed it, if you look at the brochures and the literature, it's an editing machine. That means that it's meant to juggle, shuttle with it, go back and forth, stop and play, cue, stop and play, cut, splice, go back and forth. Or just to, you did an interview on location and you want to locate the sections you're going to keep and do a little splicing. You need a machine that is sturdy and fast for rewinding, going to a specific location on the tape, and remaining accurate. That means that the winding is tight, the spools don't want to go loose and spill all over, and so that means a good tracking. The tension is properly tracked. That's the main difference between a professional tape recorder and a domestic one. Professional tape recorder, they keep the tension on the tape extremely tight. So also you can handle, and this machine can handle pancakes. Pancake is bulk tape that you buy without reel. It is winded extremely tight, but not extremely tight, too tight that you're gonna stretch the tape. But it's cheaper to buy tape, without a reel. There are aluminum reels, good quality reels. They have a price. So when you use a lot of tape, it's cheaper to buy that kind of pancake tape. But for a machine, for a tape recorder to be able to handle pancake and not spill it all over, you need perfect alignment, perfect tape transport, perfect tension on the tape all the time. There's an adapter called, for pancakes, it's like a platter without a top side of the reel, and that kind of machine can do that, can handle pancake. So from a commercial perspective and from a day-to-day perspective, in a studio where you do a lot of editing and a lot of handling tapes that runs at fast speed, 7.5, 15, 30 inches seconds, you go through a lot of tape, and you don't buy thin tape, you buy thick tape, because there's less print through, there's less stretching. So thick tape takes more room on the spool for the same for the same amount of recorded time. You need more, so you need large spool. If it's an hour interview and you at 15 inches seconds, or you won't be able to fit that on a 5.5 reel or 7.5. So you need a machine that uses large spools. So how does it work when it's time to go from 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch? Because that's fairly unique. As far as I know, I don't know any other machines, but I've heard, and I think there are other machines that can go from different width of tape. Here the spindles are already long enough to accommodate larger hubs, because you have to use another hub. This is a 1/4 inch hub. These guide wheels are already high enough. The pinch roller is already high enough. The capstan is high enough. This is the counter wheel. I'll explain the this wheel later on. It's fairly important in the design of that tape recorder. So what you have to do actually is replace this idler. You know, it's a Phillips screw that you remove and you put a higher idler here and there. You remove the head block, you pull it out, and you put the other head block. And here there's a hole for an Allen key, and it clicks from one side to the other. One side is 1/2 inch counterclockwise, and clockwise is 1/4 inch. It's just to adjust the tension on the idlers. So, you know, within 5 minutes you go from a 1/4 inch setup to a 1/2 inch setup. If you have that wouldn't make sense on a mono machine like this one, but it would make sense on a stereo machine or a 4-track machine. When you connect the head, it talks to the proper unit through its connector. So that's something unique. Another thing that I find unique, the fact that the machine is meant to do a lot of back and forth using the shuttle. They designed the transport section here so it's reversible. If you're left-handed, they consider that it's your, like I'm right-handed, it's my right hand that will be standing here all the time to fiddle around with the transport and with the shuttle. If I'm left-handed, I would like to have all these controls on this side. Yes, you can buy a remote control unit with a cable that hooks to a huge connector behind. This is typically the type of control you put near on the console, on the recording console, where you'll have, let's say you're doing FM broadcast, you have all your faders, and instead of turning around and hitting the play switch or the record switch on your tape recorder, which may be 10 feet away. In some configuration, studio configuration, sometimes the tape recorder is far away. So you have this unit next to you and you just hit it. But here, the purpose of reversing, because you can open that lid, and this plate here is a cover plate, and you flip both units, and there's already harnesses with long enough connectors and cables that you don't need any technician to reverse from left to right. Well, you don't do that every day, but you know, the main user decides which is the best setup for his comfort, and you can have the machine switch. It's not something you custom order from Ampex, it's something you do yourself. You don't call the technician, you just flip the controls. There's plenty of room here for doing that and to accommodate yourself. So it's an indicator that they really thought about, you know, intensive editing session on that machine. Also, if you notice, everything is flush. The power button is recessed, and all the control here, the transport control, the knobs, they're all below the surface of the top bed here. So that means that when you'll be editing and tape will be floating around all the time, because you're splicing, you're cutting, it won't get tangled in raised button, and you won't have to deal with that all the time. You'll be able to thread and unthread fairly fast without having to worry about catching the ribbon on one of those buttons. So it's a neat, slick, low design that is really efficient in terms of optimizing the usage of the machine. Something else about the speed. Some people worry about, you know, what's the tape speed of this machine. This machine is not labeled in terms of 7.5, 15 inches seconds or 30 inches seconds. It's a low speed machine or a high speed machine. If you look at the speed button here, there's low, mid, high. This low, mid, high means 3 different speeds, but what are they, these speeds? The machine is sold in high speed mode. That means when you go to high, it records or playback at 30 inches seconds. At mid, it's 15 inches seconds, and at low, it's 7.5 inches second. You can modify the machine. Usually it's done by a technician. It's meant for that. You pull out this unit here, and there's a board that you pull out, and there's a sequence of jumpers. You jump some components with U-shaped wires. I'll show you a picture of the way this machine has been jumped, and it's meant for that. It's not some hacking or some geek type of thing. And I'll show you also in the service manual the specific parts that you have to jump. And when you do that, the machine will change its speed, and instead of being 30, 15, and 7.5 inches per second, it will be one speed lower. That means that high will now mean 15, mid will mean 7.5, and low will mean 3.25, 3.75 inches per second. So if you're doing radio broadcast type of usage of that machine, often on good tape, and depending the purpose of your recording, 3.75 inches per second will be fine. So you'll be able to use that machine for that purpose, and simultaneously, just by rotating a knob, you'll be able to go to 15 inches second, which is the standard for the music industry for mastering a record. So don't worry, you don't lose 15 inches. You just lose 30 inches per second, which is the super high speed, seldom used. With tape recorder, it flies, it goes through tape extremely fast, and so this machine has been modified. This is the low speed version. Also, there's a variable speed. Means if this button is pressed down, the machine transports exactly, very accurately, quartz based to the speed mentioned previously. But when you pull it in playback mode only, not in record, you'll be able to switch the speed. You'll be able to slow it down or accelerate it by, I think the most is 15%. And it will allow you to, sometimes, when you're editing, you want to be a bit more accurate. You play it a bit, more. You play it not as fast, so when you mark the tape with a felt pen in front of the head, just to spot exactly where you want to cut, it's a bit easier. Or you can put your hand on the spools and move it back and forth. It also allows to match time or match the height of the timbre of a voice. If you use that machine for voiceover, like that's what I do, and you'll see why, you can slow down your voice. It drops the pitch, go about half a tone, and it just makes my voice a bit lower. And also, I'm not speaking as fast. You got to pace yourself when you're doing voiceover. It slows me down just a bit. My voice is a bit warmer, and it's done analogically speaking. I could do that with the software, a pitch shift. But when you pitch shift, especially, you're really resampling tight. You have to record at high sampling rate, and you create artifacts. But this is something simple with that machine. You just listen to your voice, you bring it to the proper speed and to the proper, height in terms of frequency. So variable speed playback here. The machine is also available in different head configuration. You can add a head. There's something called the auxiliary head here. There's a hole, and in the case of that machine, there's no head at this very moment. But you can add a head for time code, for a neo-pilotone, and maybe, I'm not sure of what I'm saying, if you want to do, create a matrix, a master in the record industry, when you're stamping vinyl, there's a step where the machine plays back the master tape, and you'll be listening to the tape and compressing and adjusting, especially groove distance, the distance between each groove. If there's not much dynamic range and the volume is not that high, you can go tighter. The grooves can be closer on the vinyl record. So when you're recording, you can change the pitch, the spacing between the grooves. But if you can hear a few, fraction of a second or a second ahead what's coming, you'll be able to anticipate it better. So these special machines that are